Morocco is a beautiful country with diverse experiences of nature, culture, and heritage. The first thing that comes to mind when mentioning Morocco is the beautiful craftsmanship in their architecture and decorations. Each city has its own Medina, which is the old and original part of the city. It is usually a maze to get lost in, with small restaurants, cafes, and thousands of authentic handcraft shops to get lost in for hours. The carpets, clothes, artwork, and brass lamps are still woven into our mind when thinking about this country. On our trip to Morocco, the first destination was Marrakesh. We stayed in a small riad, the traditional architectural homestay of Morocco in the old Medina. Venturing out into the streets of Marrakesh is something you should be prepared for, with thousands of people and busy street traffic, both by foot and wheels. We visited the Bahia Palace from the 19th century, which was constructed over 2 generations of sultans and stood as it is today in 1900. It is one of the most visited places in Marrakesh, with beautiful gardens and stunning courtyards. We also visited the Satyan Tombs, which is regarded by many art historians to be created in one of the high points of Moroccan architectural history. It has beautiful carvings and decorations at every turn, and it is a part of the royal citadel in the Medina of Marrakesh. After some days roaming around in Marrakesh, it was time to move on. From there, we were picked up by our guide to see the rest of Morocco. Our first stop was the region around the Atlas Mountains in Quarzazate. Here we visited the Kasbah Aid Ben Hadou, an ancient village still standing today in its almost original form, with clay structures and traditional buildings. The unique style of building is very noticeable and is often used as a background for movies. One of the more famous scenes filmed here was the slave market from the movie Gladiator from 2000. After a night near the Kasbah Aid Ben Hadou, we made a short stop at the Atlas movie studios, where many movies and TV shows have been filmed over the years. For me, the most interesting was the new Aladdin movie and Game of Thrones. After passing through the Atlas region, we headed towards Merzouga, the Sahara Desert in the Moroccan borders. One of the most amazing things about Morocco is the ever-changing landscape. When you drive from one part of the country to another, the nature is always new. Arriving in Merzouga, we had an overnight stay in the Sahara Desert, but first, a camel ride. I love camels. They're one of the most majestic animals to grace this planet. They fascinate me with their adaptation to the bare desert and their kind-hearted nature. It was amazing to see the connection between them and the locals. Everything from how they communicate with them to how they treat their animals and the way they read their emotions. In the morning, after sleeping overnight in the Sahara, we headed back to the main road. But before that, I did a little shoot with one of the locals in the sunrise. I wanted to capture the symbolism of the people, Islam, and their connection to the desert. After Merzouga, we headed towards Fez. It was the longest drive on our trip, but also the most beautiful. On the way, we passed small towns and beautiful nature and lush valleys. It was amazing to see how diverse the nature in Morocco is. When you're often thinking about it, you mostly think about the desert and the bare landscape, but Morocco has so much more to offer. Fez was by far my favorite city. It had the local charm with the old Medina, small alleys, local shops, and small squares with local handcrafts. One of the more famous products to come out from Fez are the leather goods. They have very large tanneries where they dye animal skin with natural clay and herbs. The smell was very strong, and I think anyone who has visited Fez knows exactly what I'm talking about. The city feels more local than Marrakesh, which is usually a touristic destination. So if you ask me, I would recommend visiting Fez instead of Marrakesh, as the experience of the city is much more authentic and you avoid much of the touristic traps and pushy salespeople. Continuing our trip up north, we arrived at the Blue Pearl Chefchaouen. It is a small mountain town known for its blue painted buildings and temperate climate. People here are often regarded as the calmest in all of Morocco. The small streets are super charming and local food amazing. It was under Spanish rule for many years, and the old Medina has a large resemblance to that of Spain. Our last stop in Morocco for this trip was Casablanca. Our main goal was to visit Hassan II Mosque, the 7th largest mosque in the world with the 2nd largest minaret. It was finished in 1993, but still constructed with traditional tilework and carvings, with many classical architectural features. The mosque is looking towards the Atlantic Ocean and can hold up to 25,000 worshippers at a time. When you walk around the premises, there are many photogenic corners and areas of this magnificent structure. One of the most popular shots from this mosque is the walkways to the mosque entrance and the doors themselves. Morocco is in Arabic called Al-Maghrib, the sunset country. The Red Valley's ancient history and deep-rooted culture is something that will stay, inshallah, as long as the sun is setting over this beautiful land. You can find the photography from our trip to Morocco on our website dnvng.com and find more than 950 different designs for your home.